What was your toxic trait, and what motivated you to change? I always complained to myself that I never got invited out to do anything, but I was the one who either never responded to those invites or just didn't show up, etc. Now I always respond with at least something, like, hey, I really appreciate the invite, thanks for thinking of me, but I have other plans today, maybe we can do something next weekend instead. Just saying and responding with anything so that they know I truly appreciate them thinking of me with the invites, and I have started going out more and following up on plans that are made. It's sort of a vicious cycle. When you aren't getting invited, I can tell nobody likes me because I never get invited to anything. When you do get invited, they are probably just asking me out of pity politeness. There's no way they actually want me to come, so I'll just ignore it. Apathy. I realized not caring isn't cool and that I should be trying to take better care of myself in order to be able to take better care of the world. One step at a time. I get some drastic mood swings, and usually if I can find one small thing to give a crap about, it starts the recovery process. Hope you feel better. I was a bit of a compulsive liar. Not anything really obscene, but little things, all the time. It came from a childhood of always having to lie to protect myself from a mentally ill parent. One day I just caught myself lying about the stupidest thing. To an Uber driver, about having a twin. I felt so dumb. I was just like, why am I doing this? I still mess up occasionally. It sometimes just happens automatically before my brain can catch up. But I try to be really conscious about it, and I think I am slowly doing better and lying less. Belittling others. Was told, man, you're really good at making fun of other people, and immediately thought what a horrible thing to be good at. I have worked since then not only to refrain from putting others down but also to start lifting others up. My goal, my absolute dream, is to be known for being really good at making other people feel better about themselves. Giving advice to people when they don't ask for it. I just realized one day when someone did it to me that it is a really stupid thing to do. I still catch myself doing it, but at least I'm aware and try to just shut my pie hole most of the time. I've had to teach myself this same thing. Now I just come on Reddit threads to get my advice giving years out. LOL. Lying about my accomplishments due to low self-esteem. I just bucked and started doing things I wanted to do and was proud of. Now I don't have to lie. If you want self-esteem, do esteemable things. For me it's the exact opposite. I overblow my failures and undermine my achievements to only feed my low self-esteem. Being negative and cold all the time. Always pessimistic and wasn't nice to even my friends sometimes. After my last relationship I realized how much of my life was similar to hers, and how a lot of her negativity rubbed off on me. Since then, I'm positive 95% of the time and much nicer and kind to everyone. I'm the happiest I've ever been. Teach me, master. I used to have some rage issues, particularly while driving. My then girlfriend pointed out how much I would flip others off and the like. I realized it doesn't make sense to stress out so much over others, and my rage in general. I was tired of being angry at everything and everyone. Much of it stemmed from issues with my father's mental illness and how it consumed us, and I didn't want to inflict any of the same suffering on others. I feel so much better. I have had a habit of relating myself to people's stories. I was really only trying to connect with the person, but sometimes it can come across as leveling. I tell myself, shut up and listen. Ask questions. Do not try to relate when someone is telling you about the death of their mother. I do that too. I got a reputation at work as a one-upper. Always making other people a priority. Money, getting the bill, time, favors, and getting upset when everyone didn't do the same for me. Losing my job. I saw very quickly how some people in my life were suddenly too busy to help me when I needed help for a change. Since that moment I've decided I should treat myself as well as I had been treating everyone else. I'm a very jealous person by nature, and I feel anger and resentment when I suspect that someone I care about, friend, family, significant other, etc., loves another person more than they love me. I was horrible to my first boyfriend, constantly trying to catch him in lies, and it's a wonder he stayed with me as long as he did. I was motivated to change when I realized I wasn't happy and that my ability to be happy was hinged on what another person thought of me. I went to therapy and, while I still struggle with feelings of envy and jealousy, I'm doing a lot better. I am glad you were able to work on that. I am working on fixing myself for same reason. Glad to hear there is some hope out there. I was always stretching myself too thin, giving too much of myself, and letting toxic people in my life walk all over me. I took it as being loving and kind and didn't mind getting destroyed if there was a chance to help them. Then I met my husband and saw how much he loved me. I dated a lot before him, but he was the first who loved me as fiercely as I loved him, and that changed me. I realized when I allowed myself to be hurt I was also hurting him. I also realized the pain I had put my closest friends through by going headlong into losing battles that I knew would leave me torn apart. I realized that when I hurt myself I'm not just hurting myself, I'm hurting the people I love the most and who loved me the most. So I've finally actually started forming boundaries and limits and I'm learning to say no. My husband has done a similar help to me. I'm so happy that you have found that love. And I'm proud of your courage to self-care. I know I've stretched myself too thin often and filling your cup before pouring into others is so important. Keep going. When I was 13-14, I thought I was woke before the word even existed. I was the kid saying well, actually, constantly pessimistic about the future and trying to find my own principles that seemed to conflict with modern reality. I cherished my powers of analysis and the budding scientist in me always had a one-up on anyone sharing a story. After a family reunion, my mom casually mentioned how similar I was to my uncle. I hated this man with a passion. He was the most boring, negative human I had ever met. He's like white bread spread on cardboard. I immediately changed my ways. I couldn't have imagined how much of a crappy human I was to be around. Forever optimist ever since. I feel like most kids around this age go through this phase. It's just a step towards finding and becoming your own self. Oh boy, welcome to the fricking show. Clinginess, jealousy of anyone better than me, drinking too much, depression, insecurity, overthinking. Then again, most these are contributed to my excessive drug use. I was a nice girl, a not like other girls girl, aka, I agreed with the nice guy agenda. These girls are all S who only like chads who treat them like garbage. That's why I am not like other girls and I like video games. I got a neckbeard boyfriend and we bitched about girls leading guys on. Then, he started saying some seriously misogynistic things. That's when I realized how cringe I was being. We broke up and I started having a much better view of my fellow women. Oh man, I was a teen way before this type of discourse came along, but I think if I were younger, I'd have been the same. I said some seriously crappy things about other girls when I was in high school, and thought I was totes superior because I was into Star Trek instead of Dawson's Creek or whatever. I used to eat my feelings instead of deal with them, go for a quick sugar high when I was feeling low, which was all the time. I gained 100 pounds that way. I decided to change after doing a day of housework, sweeping, mopping, cleaning under furniture, all the heavy stuff, and being absolutely incapacitated the next day. I didn't want my crappy eating habits and lack of exercise to dictate what I could and couldn't do. Within a week I had joined group fitness classes, revamped how I ate and started working on a strategy to get out of my unhappy marriage. Now I just keep my feelings bottled up like a normal person. My thoughts. That's good. That's good. That's good. Oh damn it. I kind of used to be a butthole. I realized if you were a dong to certain people they would try and be nice to you to make you like them. I've solved that problem by never talking to anybody. Back in middle high school, I had an extremely caustic sense of humor. My idea of humor was basically insulting whoever I was talking to as much as possible. I honestly didn't mean any harm by it and I didn't realize anyone minded. Before I reached this phase, I was super quiet and polite all the time, so when I started throwing in some edgier humor, people initially found it hilarious. Even if what I had said wasn't that funny, it was hilarious to hear it coming from me. But after a while, People just expected it from me and it became my brand of humor. I didn't really notice that happening until one time. I was chatting with a friend of mine on AIM and, as usual, being super mean. I guess he finally got fed up with him and asked me what the heck my problem was. He told me I must either really dislike him or have a crush on him. It was the latter, otherwise he didn't understand why I would treat him that way. I was so shocked and ashamed. I couldn't admit in the moment that I did have a thing for him, so I just said it was neither, and that I was really sorry for hurting his feelings, and that I never meant anything personal by it. I'd really liked this guy for years and it totally crushed me to know that he'd seen me as an annoyance and a bully rather than a friend. After that, I made much more of an effort to be genuine and kind to people. I can still crack jokes at people, but I make sure to only do it with people who really enjoy it, and not do it 100% of the time so they know I actually like them. I interrupted people a lot. I noticed I started doing this and I could pinpoint that I'd do it when I thought I had something funny to say and didn't want to miss my opportunity to say it. I think it spawns from me being the youngest of 8 kids and always being rolled over, talked over, or treated like I didn't have anything as important to say as my older siblings. I either learned it as a trait when my siblings kept doing it to me, or it's a way for me to get my word out without feeling ignored. Either way, I noticed it started really annoying anybody I talked to and I have since weaned myself off of it. Being mean to myself. When I was putting myself down, my friend said, "Hey, that's my friend you're talking about, stop being so mean." I still struggle with feeling unworthy, stupid, and useless, but I've went from not saying bad things, still thinking, to actually focusing on the positive aspects about whatever I am doing. It's not perfect, but I feel a little better about myself. It's so hard to be diligent about catching yourself being mean to yourself. Sometimes I still kind of fall back into it, but it helps to try and ask myself if I would say the same stuff to another person. I almost never would. My anxiety. Everyone thinks I'm such a nice person and I actually think I am a nice person, but I have held back on how I actually feel, which can actually hinder things, make me out to be an butthole in the long run on not saying how I actually feel. I've gotten a lot better since having my son, and I think that there are a lot worse ways to be fricked up, but truth is we are all just human finding ways to deal with our own existences. The fact that everyone is willing to admit to their own demons is pretty impressive. This speaks volumes to me. I can relate almost. Paranoid with trust issues. I developed them after being cheated on for the 3rd time. Wanting to be in a stable relationship with my fiancée where I wouldn't think about her in the context of my exes. I was selfish and all around hostile to the world. I took too many things personally and always wound up feeling sorry for myself. I'd fall into this depressive mood in which I came off as controlling, but really it was needy. I felt love from this girl and it kinda changed me temporarily, but I fell back into it. Now that I've lost her, I'm a different person. I hope one day we'll be on good terms again and she'll see this change. But even if that doesn't happen, I am happier with who I am. But it's a long story filled with lots of sighs. Mine is anger. My father was always an unreasonably angry person, not abusively, and definitely not all of the time. But when he got mad, he'd explode, and no matter what he was talking about, he was right and you were wrong. This translated into lots of road rage as well. He'd tailgate people so close you couldn't see their license plate on the highway at 70 miles per hour. I am sad to admit that I have his same temper and road rage habits, but I recognize this, and I am absolutely devoted to not being that way. Though my heart still beats furiously when someone yells at me or is angry at me, I never become belligerent, and have learned to be a very skilled mediator. Though I used to be a very aggressive driver, I almost never do anything like that now. No tailgating, very little speeding, and when someone is an idiot, I just think, what if their family member was just in an accident and they're rushing to the hospital or something like that, and it calms me down. I was really crappy in early high school. I didn't bully people in school, but I would get mean and occasionally hostile with close friends. They tolerated me, for some reason. I just kind of realized I was being crappy for no reason. I think it was when I started reading about Buddhism where I was like, there's some good points in here even if I don't believe some of the fundamentals. Life doesn't have to be suffering. When someone says something hurtful or does something mean, you don't have to react that way back to them. Take insults with a smile. Offer to buy food for your worst enemies. Let that butthole who is flipping you off into your lane when he ends up needing to be there 10 miles later. Not to be on their good side, but just to show them genuine kindness. There's a story in Buddhism, and I'm gonna paraphrase from memory, but it goes something like, a thief came up to the very top of the mountain to rob a monk. When he arrived, he entered the monk's home to take all of his valuables. The monk apologized and said that he had nothing of value for him to offer. The thief looked around the room and realized it was empty. No statues, no gold, no riches, just the monk. The thief left, disappointed. As he walked down the road, he heard footsteps behind him. It was the monk. I have nothing to give you except for this, and it was the clothes right off his back. The thief seemed confused and walked away into the night, taking the monk's clothes with him. The monk looked up at the sky and said, "Poor man. I wish I could give him the moon. I still have a long way to go, as we all do. I had a real good sweet spot of being a genuine and good person at the end of high school. Working retail made me a little jaded and bitter after a few years, but I'm in my career now, so I'm gonna go back and read some of those books and continue my efforts to be the best person I can be to everyone around me." I was basically a poster child for I am very smart and I am veribidus, but then I realized that I was a complete loser and stopped doing that. I used naturally take advantage of people without realizing I was hurting the people I love just by taking and not giving. It took until a horrendous injury and a harsh major surgery to make me realize how much people do for me. I then made myself vow to try to give before I take. Extremely defensive. Any criticism was taken as an attack and led to disproportionate anger over all sorts of things. It was truly toxic. I'm trying to get better, but it's hard. The turning point came when I drunkenly lost my crap over being told I should slow down on the booze. I now only get irritated instead of angry. It's a really hard habit to crack. The worst part is that I'm usually pretty chill. Being shy to the point of it being a vice. People seem to assume I'm an egotistical prick because I tend to not start many conversations, when in reality I just don't know what to say that they might find interesting. My solution? Marry an extrovert. She has brought me out of my shell a little, and things are getting better. Well crap. First I would have to stop being an introvert and meet this person, haha. Correcting others when they are wrong. I'm not taking about debated topics or politics. I'm taking about general mistakes people make. Like, if I overheard a conversation where someone is pondering how hot it is in Australia right now, I'd be the guy to chime in uninvited. Actually, it's the middle of winter there, and I'd explain why. I genuinely thought I was helpful, because I like to be corrected myself. It wasn't until I was in my 30s that I understood that it comes across as condescending, and it appears that I'm trying to put down those around me. I still don't understand why, though, but now I do understand that not everything needs a response from me, and people are much happier if you let them walk around with whatever nonsense they have clanging around in their heads. I recently made a friend who talks just like I used to and corrects everyone around him. He has no clue how he sounds and doesn't understand why no one wants to talk to him. I love talking to him though. I correct him, he corrects me, and we both learn crap as a result. If he were closer to my age I'd be trying to marry him. To be honest, it doesn't really matter, you know why people don't like it, and only that you respect their boundaries, which you seem more than capable of. Recently I watched A Silent Voice, which is a movie about bullying and the punishment that follows of feeling guilt and self-hatred. I never bullied anybody, but I didn't necessarily feel like a great person and I lacked self-confidence, and that film triggered me to do better. I was what my friends in college called the mom friend. Let people stay over all the time, cooked for them without payment, lent money all the time, always available to give advice even at 4 AM. And then half of my friends grew to expect me to be a doormat for them and never cleaned up after themselves or thanked me. They were already pretty entitled to begin with, and I unfortunately made that worse. I finally got tired of getting taken advantage of and started setting boundaries, saying no, calling them out of their bulls. Life's good. I have time for myself and I've learned to like being more alone. just hanging out by myself or with my brother, or and I don't host the get-togethers anymore. We go to a freaking restaurant, so I don't have to clean up. I'm actually dealing with this right now. Throughout most of my high school career, I'm currently starting my first year of university. I've never really had self-control when it comes to drinking and drug use. I wouldn't say I'm an alcoholic because I'm never tempted or driven to use and abuse substances on my own. I really only smoke and drink when I'm at parties. But recently it's gotten really out of hand and it caused my girlfriend to break up with me today, and it's caused other friends to leave me because they don't like having to babysit me every time we go out. I've become more serious about seeing my therapist, and I'm using this as an opportunity to better myself because I've never been one to put time into themselves. I'm just starting my journey to fix myself, but I'm already optimistic about it, and if anyone needs help I'd be glad to go through this stuff with you. Nobody should have to do this alone. Good luck. It can be done. I've been sober for nearly 2 years now and loving life again. Still the odd drink very rarely, but it was the drugs that did it for me, so I'm happy to be out of that hole. Saying no to things before thinking about it. Wanting my kids to have it better growing up than I had it was the motivation for me changing that. Did I give my kids chocolate at 8 this morning when they asked? Dang right I did, and I don't regret it. So refreshing and wholesome. I know too many people whose first answer is always number. I'm very manipulative out of spite. I haven't ever had a healthy relationship until the last few years with my husband. Him and my ex were pretty emotionally abusive and manipulative with me, so after I finally stepped up, I actually started to turn into how they were while my husband changed for the better. I'm seeing a counselor right now and I think it's helping a lot. At least you are seeking help now. That's a big step to making a better life for yourself. I projected the frick out of everyone. I could do no wrong, and everyone else was. After some depression and learned self-awareness, I carry on with a live and let live attitude, and understanding that crap's complicated. I monopolized conversations. I had to learn that I don't need to be the center of attention, and worked on the skill of active listening. Having a negative view of myself. I'm very personable and try to be kind to everyone, but I also don't make the effort in personal relationships that I should, and I drink too much. It's created a sort of feedback where I continue to have a more negative view of myself as time goes on, and I'm not really sure how to stop it. Now that these heat waves are over, I can start getting outside and playing soccer again, and hopefully the exercise helps. I just feel like I'm slowly withdrawing from everyone and getting less healthy, but I find it hard to get motivated to make a change because professionally I'm doing well and generally I'm in a good mood. I just feel like it's best to withdraw from these relationships so that I don't have to keep letting them down. I also have difficulty opening up to people. That's always been a constant. My only girlfriends have been girls that I've already been best friends with for years. I'm finally dating a girl that I like and I'm blowing it. It will probably be over soon and I don't plan on trying to date again anytime soon. I'll probably delete this in like 30 minutes, but it was nice to get off my chest. I can't really afford a therapist right now. I used to smoke weed constantly. I genuinely hated being sober to the point where I actually felt depressed if I wasn't high. Then I got pregnant and I haven't smoked weed or even cigarettes in well over a year, and my little girl makes me so incredibly happy that I don't know what I'd do without her. I'm definitely not against weed though, just against using it to the point where you can't be without it. My alcoholism. It amplifies my bipolar disorder and literally hurts everyone around me. I've lost so many meaningful opportunities and loved people because of my addiction. I'm currently 180 days sober and focused on being a better version of myself. 180 days. That's wonderful. Keep doing what you're doing and things will change for the better. I used to hold serious grudges over anything I felt wasn't right and held people to a standard that was unreasonably high. Once I finally realized that I was mostly just frustrating and stressing out myself, I started working toward letting things go, especially things that weren't malicious. I also recognized that not everyone who comes into your life will be perfect and is meant to stay in your life. If someone does something terrible to me, I won't hold a grudge. but I will also quickly accept that person isn't going to be a part of my life moving forward. It's really nice to not dwell on these things for months on end with an expectation of some sort of resolution. The other positive side effect is that I am now generally surrounded by excellent people and none of them feel the need to walk on eggshells around me to avoid upsetting me. So long as something wasn't malicious, I'll get over it very quickly. It makes for much easier relationships. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.